Picture this: summer of 2005, Afghanistan. The US and its allies are knee-deep in the fourth year of Operation Enduring Freedom. The endgame, not even on the horizon. But hey, there's a glimmer of hope. Afghanistan is gearing up for parliamentary elections in September. And get this, women are on the ballot. A big deal, right? But not everyone's throwing a party. Enter the anti-coalition militias, your Taliban, your Al-Qaeda, and a cocktail of other groups who aren't exactly fans of the West. They're hell-bent on derailing these elections, calling them ungodly or whatever. So what do the coalition forces do? They roll up their sleeves and get proactive. They start targeting the big fish, the radical leaders stirring the pot in the run-up to the elections. Now, here's where things take a dark turn. This proactive approach sets the stage for one of the most devastating days in the history of US Special Forces. Imagine a team of 20 elite soldiers, the best of the best, going up against insurmountable odds. When the dust settles, only one man is left standing. Just one. This is the gut-wrenching tale of Operation Red Wings. So, who's on the coalition's hit list? One name stands out: Ahmed Shah. This guy's from the Kunar province, and initially, he was fighting to kick out the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But as time goes on, he starts to see the US and its allies as the enemy. He even starts recruiting foreign fighters to join the cause. Taking him out becomes priority numero uno. By early 2005, Shah's running his own show, a militia group called the Mountain Tigers, operating right along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. Now, while the coalition has managed to secure most of central and western Afghanistan, the borderlands are a different beast altogether. It's like the Wild West out there, with pro-Taliban and Al-Qaeda groups taking refuge on the Pakistani side. So, you see, securing these borderlands isn't just a task, it's a Herculean effort, and that's where our story really begins. So, you've got Ahmed Shah and his Mountain Tigers running amok in the borderlands, right? Now, you might be thinking, why is this area such a hot? Well, the geography itself is a nightmare. Rugged terrain, mountains that touch the sky, and a porous border that might as well have a welcome sign for insurgents. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is also full of other needles that want to stab you. And let's not forget the local dynamics. The border region is a complex tapestry of tribal loyalties, and let me tell you, these loyalties can shift quicker than sand in a desert storm. One minute you think you've got an ally, and the next, they're pointing the Kalashnikov at you. It's a high-stakes game of 3D chess, played on a board that's constantly changing. Now, back to our special forces. These guys aren't your run-of-the-mill soldiers. They're trained to adapt, to think on their feet, and to handle situations that would make most people's heads spin. They're the ones tasked with the near-impossible mission of taking out Ahmed Shah and his Mountain Tigers. The operation is meticulously planned, every detail scrutinized, because in missions like this, even the tiniest mistake can cost lives. The team is led by Lieutenant Michael Murphy, a man whose courage and leadership are the stuff of legends. Alongside him are three other SEALs: Danny Dietz, Matthew Axelson, and Marcus Luttrell. These men know the risks, but they also know what's at stake. They're not just fighting for the success of an operation, they're fighting for the future of a nation teetering on the edge. They're inserted deep into enemy territory, under the cover of night, their hearts pounding but their minds razor-sharp. The mission starts off smoothly, but as dawn breaks, they're discovered by local goat herders. A moral dilemma unfolds. Do they let them go and risk compromising the mission, or do they take the harsher route? After a tense debate, they decide to let them go, a decision guided by the rules of engagement and their own moral compass. But here's where fate throws a curveball. Within hours, they find themselves surrounded by Ahmed Shah's men, outnumbered and outgunned. A fierce firefight erupts, echoing through the valleys. Despite their training, despite their courage, the odds are overwhelmingly against them. And that's where we find ourselves, at the crux of Operation Red Wings, a mission that tests the limits of human endurance, bravery, and the complexities of warfare in one of the world's most unforgiving landscapes. It's not just a battle, It's a struggle for the soul of a nation and the men who dare to change its course. So we've got Ahmed Shah and his mountain tigers, right? But here's the kicker. They're just one of 22 known groups wreaking havoc in Kunar province. Yeah, you heard that right. It's like a villainous jamboree out there. Rival Taliban factions, terrorist-linked groups, and even criminal gangs looking to cash in on the chaos. To make himself even more elusive, Shah starts going by the name Muhammad Ismail. The guy's a slippery fish, and even drones can't pin him down. So, what's the game plan? Enter Operation Red Wings, a meticulously crafted operation named after the Detroit Red Wings hockey team. Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. The brains behind this operation, Major Thomas Wood from the U.S. Marine Corps. The operation is broken down into 5 phases, each more intense than the last. Phase 1. Insert a special forces team to scout out buildings where Shah might be hiding. Once they've got eyes on Shah, Phase 2 kicks in. A direct action team swoops in, either to capture or eliminate him. Phases 3 and 4 involve securing the area, making sure Shah can't slip away or get help from his villainous buddies. And finally, Phase 5 is all about getting our guys out of there safely. Now, who's going to pull off this high-stakes mission? None other than the U.S. Navy's elite SEALs, inserted by the Army's 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, also known as the Night Stalkers. These guys are the real deal, flying in on MH-47 helicopters, a beefed-up version of the iconic CH-47 Chinook. Among the SEALs is Marcus Luttrell, a man whose life story reads like an action movie script. Raised on a horse farm, Marcus and his twin brother Morgan were taught survival skills by their dad, a former Navy man and Vietnam vet. From a young age, Marcus was laser-focused on joining the Special Forces. He even had a neighbor, a U.S. Army veteran, who put him and his brother through a grueling training regimen. Marcus eventually joined the SEALs and saw action in Iraq before being deployed to Afghanistan. Joining Marcus on this fateful night are Lieutenant Michael Murphy, the team leader, Matthew Axelson, a sharpshooting sniper, and Danny Dietz, the communications officer and spotter. Even before they set off, Marcus has this gut feeling that something's off, but they proceed anyway. The MH-47 helicopters thunder through the night, landing on a ridge near the Sotalosar mountain in the Hindu Kush range. These men, armed with unparalleled skills and unbreakable will, are about to step into one of the most perilous missions ever conceived. It's not just about taking down Ahmed Shah, it's about navigating a labyrinth of tribal loyalties, treacherous terrain, and a sea of hostile forces. It's a mission that will test not just their physical limits, but also their moral and ethical boundaries. And trust me, this is where the real story begins. So the SEALs are dropped off at around 10,000 feet in the Hindu Kush Mountains. And let me tell you, they're not exactly walking through a meadow. The terrain is rough, and the vegetation, practically non-existent. They're trekking through mud and freezing rain, and Marcus Luttrell's gut feeling of dread is only intensifying. As they approach a village known to be sympathetic to the Taliban, they find themselves under the spotlight. Literally, a full moon is casting their shadows across the barren mountain, making them sitting ducks. But luck is on their side, at least for now. They go undetected and take up positions overlooking the village. Now, here's where things get dicey. As they're scoping out potential hideouts for Ahmed Shah, Marcus spots a local man who practically lands in front of him. Guns are drawn, tensions skyrocket, and it turns out the guy is just a goat herder. 2 more appear, and the SEALs are now facing a moral quandary. These herders know their location, but they're unarmed. The rules of engagement are clear. They can't harm them. Lieutenant Murphy tries to radio for advice, but can't get a signal. So he makes the call to let them go. But here's where the other shoe drops. Less than an hour later, they're ambushed. Ahmed Shah's men, armed to the teeth with heavy machine guns and rocket-propelled grenade launchers, launch a ferocious attack. The SEALs are outnumbered, outgunned, but not outwilled. Murphy knows they need help, and the only way to get it is to move into the open to make a radio call. Despite the hailstorm of bullets and explosions, he steps out and makes contact with Bagram Air Base, requesting immediate assistance. It's a heroic act, one that puts his life on the line for his team. Meanwhile, Marcus Luttrell is zigzagging down the mountainside, dodging bullets like he's in a real-life action movie. But then he slips, tumbling down, losing his gear, and finally coming to a stop at the bottom. He's followed by the others, who also seek cover to continue the fight. Danny Dietz picks up the radio to call for help, but gets shot in the hand. The situation is dire, to say the least, and that's where we are. These men, against all odds, are fighting not just for their lives, but for something greater. They're in the middle of a battle that's as complex as it is deadly, a battle that questions not just their training and skills, but their very humanity. It's a story that's far from over, a story that will be etched in the annals of military history. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Murphy's been shot, but he's not down. He picks up the transmitter again and continues to communicate with Bagram Air Base. "Roger that, sir, thank you," he says just before more rounds rip into him. Marcus Luttrell watches in horror as 4 of Shah's men emerge and finish off Lieutenant Murphy. A rocket-propelled grenade detonates between Luttrell and Axelson, throwing Luttrell over another ridge and knocking him unconscious. When the dust settles, 35 of Shah's men are dead, but so are Murphy, Axelson, and Dietz. Luttrell is the lone survivor. Now, you'd think that's the end of it, but hold on. 2 NH-47s, call signs Turbine 33 and 34, are scrambled to the scene. They're carrying 8 additional SEALs and 8 Night Stalkers. But as Turbine 33 approaches, disaster strikes again. One of Shah's men fires a rocket-propelled grenade into the aircraft, causing it to crash and killing all 16 on board. June 28, 2005 becomes the darkest day for U.S. Special Forces in Operation Enduring Freedom. But remember Luttrell. He's wounded but alive. He spends the night crawling through the dirt, sucking on vegetation for moisture, until he finds a waterfall. Just as he's taking a few desperate gulps, he spots a group of Afghans. He's about to open fire when one of them gestures that they're unarmed. They're Pashtuns, and they decide to take him in and offer him aid. For 3 days, they care for him, even as anti-coalition militia make contact looking for the American. The Pashtuns refuse to give him up. Luttrell writes a note, which one of the Pashtuns takes to a nearby U.S. Marine outpost. This time, U.S. forces take no chances. A massive rescue effort is organized, and Luttrell is successfully recovered on July 2nd. As for Ahmed Shah, his celebrations are short-lived. U.S. forces return in force in August 2005 under Operation Whalers, severely disrupting his operations. He escapes death or capture, but is eventually killed by Pakistani police in 2008. Marcus Luttrell receives the Navy Cross for his courage, while posthumous Navy Crosses go to Matthew Axelson and Danny Dietz. For his heroic effort, Lieutenant Michael Murphy is awarded a posthumous Medal of Honor. In 2011, the U.S. Navy christens its 62nd Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, the U.S. Michael Murphy. And there you have it, a tale of bravery, sacrifice, and the complexities of modern warfare. It's a story that's etched in the annals of military history, a story that questions not just the physical and tactical aspects of war, but the very essence of humanity and heroism. It's a story that, like the men who lived it, will not be easily forgotten.